And I think the biggest reason why this is even a problem is the way that the NBA just releases these awards. Like, we're in the second round of the NBA playoffs. Like today, as of hello and welcome to the Tuesday, May 10th edition of the TV on Basketball Podcast with your host, TV. Hope you're having a fantastic day and thank you for clicking on to watch or listen to today's episode. Before we start, I do have to plug my other platforms. Remember to follow at TV on Basketball on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok for updates on the podcast and for other great content. If you are new to, remember to like, share, and subscribe and hit the notification bell. That would be highly, highly appreciated. As for my podcast listeners, remember to subscribe and leave a review if you're on Apple. And for Spotify, Anchor, Podbean listeners, just to continue to support you any way possible. I definitely see you all. I have an awesome show lined up for you today. We're going to be talking about some of the awards that have been announced over the last few days. And we're going to be talking about kind of my issue with the way the NBA awards are dealt with. We're also going to get to each second round series again, going through what's happened in games 3 and 4 the last few days. And then finally, we're going to be doing some more season grades, talking about the Eastern teams that didn't even make the play-in tournament, and we're going to be giving them their grades on the season. Some of them you might think, because they're, lottery teams, you might think that they're all going to be bad grades. But obviously there's some teams who need to tank and stuff like that in order to help build their future. So there's going to be grades according to that, which I'll definitely discuss later. So yeah, lots of great stuff to talk about, and there's a lot to get into, so let's just get right into it. And the first thing I do want to talk about is the NBA awards. And firstly, I'm going to say, congratulations to the people who won the awards. But I do have a major problem with it, with the way it's being released. But first, let's talk about who won the awards. Firstly, let's say congrats to Monty Williams for winning Coach of the Year, Coach of the Phoenix Suns, leading them to the best record in their franchise's history, 64-18. And honestly, this year, it was really down to two guys for me. It was either him or Taylor Jenkins. And Taylor Jenkins had that factor like it was with Tibbs last year, where he took a team which didn't expect to be this good in the Memphis Grizzlies. They were maybe looking at it as a play-in team before the season started, like they were last year. But this year, he elevated them from like a play-in lock all the way to the number 2 seed in the West. And honestly, a fantastic season from the Grizzlies. Taylor Jenkins definitely has a case there, especially with the way where John Moran was injured for a good chunk of the season. He was still able to pick up key victories without him. I think that was definitely a good case for Coach of the Year. But this had to go to Monty, in my opinion. I picked Monty as my pick at the end of the season, and I definitely am sticking to it right now. The Suns just looked completely just dominant throughout the entire regular season. And you could just tell by the way that the players talk about Monty, the way that the way that he impacts the team, both on the offensive and defensive end with his scheme, that they're just completely committed to a system, and it's working out for them. They know they can get as far as the NBA Finals from last year's performance, and this year they're trying to grab the opportunity by the throat and completely just run with it. And Monty Williams being is kind of the mastermind of all this. Yes, you have players like Chris Paul, Devin Booker, who are fantastic, and Chris Paul, one of the best minds in basketball. But there has to be a coach that's able to manage all of this, and Monty Williams has been able to do that the past 3 years. I would say that. And remember from a couple years ago in the bubble when the Suns went 8-0 and still didn't make the playoffs. It sucked, but also you could just see kind of the little bits and spots of potential there for the Phoenix Suns, and they were able to continue that on in the next season, and even better this season. I mean, right now they're in the second round series with the Mavs, they're kind of struggling a bit, but at the same time, the Suns look like they are primed for another finals appearance. Monty Williams being the leader of that in the locker room. But then we have another award, and we finally got the biggest award of the season, and we finally know the MVP. Congratulations, back-to-back MVPs for Mr. Nikola Jokic. He was absolutely phenomenal this season, and I do want to talk about this because there is a lot of talk on the internet, on NBA, in the NBA community, about him winning it and him basically robbing Embiid from that. I said after the season, my pick was Jokic, But if Embiid or Giannis won, I did not care because all of them had worthy cases. Giannis, I think the reason why he didn't win the award, it's more like he's had the LeBron what I call it, the LeBron effect, where we've seen him perform year in year out. He puts up these crazy numbers, and we're just kind of numb to it. And I don't want to be like numb to it to this part of his young career. But that's what's happening with Giannis, and that's why, although he had, I think, the best record out of all these of all the three candidates here, and probably like just as good numbers, I don't think he was going to be number one or two. Embiid, on the other hand, it was really between him and Jokic. Like at the end of the season, again, I picked Jokic as my preference. I thought that he had a fantastic impact on the offensive end, and him missing both his players and Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray on this team, and still being able to lead him to 48 wins, I think was highly, highly impressive. He is one of the best offensive players, if not the best offensive player in the league. If you talk about the whole package, he was my reason for it. But like I said, whether it's Embiid, whether it's Giannis, whether it's Jokic, I mean, Embiid this season finally stayed healthy for a lot. NBA's leading scorer, led the 76ers to 51 wins amidst all the Ben Simmons drama. He had a phenomenal season. And if he won MVP, like I said, I think that he was worthy as well. But everyone's talking about here, Embiid got robbed and this and that. And for me, I really don't think that's the case. I don't think any of these guys would have robbed one or the other, because all of them had MVP level seasons. It was literally a toss up. It literally was a toss up, and some of the people, especially the people who are voting, want to look at advanced statistics. I think they have a place in the league for it, but at the same time, shouldn't be like the main metric we should be measuring these players with. I think that if you mix in that along with Jokic's performance, he would be MVP. But Embiid definitely has a case here. And I think the biggest reason why this is even a problem is the way that the NBA just releases these awards. We're in the second round of the NBA playoffs. Like today, as of recording, May 10th, this was announced. May 9th, Monday, the Nuggets are at the playoffs. Jokic probably wants to go back home to Serbia and be with his horses. But they finally announced this award, and I think that's a big reason why people are kind of off, saying, Embiid got robbed and stuff like that, because people are going to remember what happened recently. And what we remember last from Jokic was, although he put up massive numbers again in the playoffs, I mean, he was absolutely phenomenal in that series versus the Golden State Warriors, where he averaged 31, 13, and 6 assists. They got down in 5 games. They lost 4-1. And when you see what happened with him and seeing what's happening with Joel Embiid right now in the second round, completely changing the series for the Philadelphia 76ers, they're going to be like, oh, this guy is definitely MVP. Why isn't he over Jokic? Well, firstly, it's a regular season award, and I think people really have to think about that when doing this. But I don't blame them. I really don't, because the NBA does a horrible job releasing these. What I find great now about the NBA is, now that they have the play-in tournament, they have this little gap where I believe that, which is 4 or 5 days, you can release the awards then. You really could. And I think that would have been a lot more suffice. And I think it would make a lot more sense having the awards announced then, when the regular season is fresh in our mind. And then you can think, oh, we don't have to have the argument why would we give the MVP to someone who was a first round exit, who was gonna be a guaranteed first round exit, when that really shouldn't be the case, because Jokic in the regular season, for me, had the best regular season out of anyone in the league. But that's going to be pushed aside because of the way Embiid is playing in the playoffs. And again, not taking anything away from Embiid, it's just the timing is what is really, pushing the narrative towards him at the moment. And the NBA just has to do a lot better with this. I think that if people really want to have a better award for this, is they would have to encapsulate all of the playoffs as well. But honestly, no major professional sports does that. If you look at the MLB or even the NHL, I don't think they have any all of season awards. It's always the regular season. Same here with the NBA. But they got him release these awards sooner. They really do. Or else you're gonna have these like random arguments, like these toxic environments in out in NBA community, and just like completely like taking away from like what Jokic did or what any of these players in the regular season, just spurring up this debate and making these like debates lean towards the playoffs when it really shouldn't be. That's like really my big point here. But yeah, congratulations to Nikola Jokic. Again, I don't care about being right or not. If Embiid won it, I don't care. If Giannis won it, congratulations to both of them. But congratulations to Jokic as well. He's only the 12th player in NBA history to go back to back in MVPs, joining the likes of Jordan, Kareem, LeBron, etc., etc. Congratulations to the Joker. One more thing though before we move on to these NBA playoffs, people want to talk about the inconsistent criteria and stuff like that. I just think that for the NBA awards, like whether you like it or not, it is a fluid situation every single year. I think the one award that's pretty consistent, like year in year out, is the Six Man of the Year award. It's usually just the best scorer coming off the bench most years. So that's really like the one thing there. But besides that, it's fluid for every award. There's gonna be narratives. There's gonna be other things that like help influence each award. And I think that's just gonna happen, especially because unless the NBA changes it and has like a specific criteria, and that would mean no voting and stuff like that, and that is gonna have to change the way just all the awards are voted on. Let's see. I mean, it doesn't really matter to me. It's an award, it's a regular season award. If I'm Embiid, use this motivation to go out there and kill it in the playoffs and try to win that championship. I mean, Giannis has a couple already. I don't think it's gonna motivate him too much. But Giannis is already one of the best. Is already the best player in the league. So who cares? But congratulations to Jokic once again. Congratulations to Monty Williams once again. Let's get into these NBA playoffs, and we're gonna start off here with the series that is not tied up: the Warriors versus Grizzlies, with the Warriors having the 3-1 series lead. I'm gonna go into Game 3 very quickly because this was an absolute blowout. The Warriors won 144-114. And the biggest change here for the Warriors was in the starting lineup. They removed Kevon Looney, moved Draymond Green to center, and inserted Jonathan Kuminga. And in this game, he was great. 18 points, 2 rebounds, and assists, 8 for 10 shooting. And he played a vital role in this game where the Warriors just absolutely trampled the Memphis Grizzlies. It was like very competitive in the first half. I thought that Ja's like end of the first half 3 kind of kept them alive. It made like an 8-point game and stuff like that. The Grizzlies seemed like they were in it. But then the third quarter got outscored 37-23. Fourth quarter 41-32. The Grizzlies just could not stop them. They could not stop him. They had 6 guys in like over 13 points each, with Curry finishing with 30 points and Jordan Poole off the bench finishing with 27. It was just an absolute blowout for the Golden State Warriors. And honestly, the biggest takeaway from this game was that Ja Morant had another issue with his knee. He's been having problems all year with it, and it re-aggravated once again, which caused them to actually leave the game early and also make him miss Game 4. But there's always that talk, there's some clip going around about Jordan Poole grabbing Ja Morant's knee, and some discussion saying, this was they're talking about breaking the code and stuff like that. Well, why is Jordan Poole doing that? It really isn't anything. I don't think him grabbing onto the knee and doing what he did would have made like a massive impact. For me, it was just Ja Morant having these knee / leg injuries throughout the entire season, and it's just coming back in the playoffs. Just the way that he plays, this is gonna get re-aggravated all the time, and it just happened once again, unfortunately. But yeah, the Warriors just completely blew them out, and whatever Jordan Poole did, I don't think it was with malicious intent. I don't think it was anything too bad. So it was just non-intentional. Moving on to Game 4, there was this talk saying, okay, no Ja Morant, no chance, especially in the playoffs against this Warriors team, no chance. Well, the Grizzlies had this game for 42 minutes. And we should have known that there's going to be a competition because the Grizzlies can win with or without Ja Morant. They proved that throughout the entire regular season. And in this game, they really just slowed everything down. For the first 42 minutes, the Warriors could not get into any offensive rhythm. And it really felt like the Grizzlies are just going to, get how would I say it? just like a tough win, not like a dirty win, but also just like, getting down and dirty to get this win. Because Jaren Jackson Jr. played a solid game, 21 points, 19 from Tyus Jones, 17 off the bench from Kyle Anderson. It just felt like, the Grizzlies were just gonna steal one in Golden State, and that was gonna be extremely, extremely massive. But there's a reason why no one wants to face this Warriors team in any playoff series, because when you're in a game, you could be up by 15 points in the fourth, 20 points in the second half, anything. Like, those leads can just disappear like that with the Golden State Warriors. This is why, like, when you have Steph, you got Clay, and now you add Jordan Poole into the mix, these leads can just evaporate and the game can turn. And that's what happened here with the Memphis Grizzlies. Because at some point in this fourth quarter, they were up by like 11 or 12. And it looked like, they were slowing things down. They were going at their pace. That was what was giving them this momentum. But for the final 6 minutes, when the Warriors were struggling throughout this entire game, it finally clicked. Steph had a fantastic fourth quarter, finished with 32 points, and he got help from people like Wiggins. Clay had 14 on still a bad shooting night, but he hit some key shots there in the fourth. Poole with 14. Otto Porter really keeping their hopes alive with 4 out of 6 threes in that game. Like, he's the one who really kept their offense flowing when they really needed a catch and shoot bucket. And they were able to pull out the win 101 to 98. And now they have the commanding 3-1 series lead. And literally my takeaway from this once again is that the Warriors have been there, done that, and their experience is what's like really giving them this massive advantage over the Grizzlies. For the past 7 years, this is what made them a dangerous team. Their explosive offense. They may struggle for a large chunk of the game, but they'll always find a way to hit shots when it matters. And it happened once again against the Grizzlies. They were able to pull out the win. No John Morant, and even though they just couldn't get stuff going, they finally started hitting. And when you have so many of these shot creators on your team, and still have a really good defense, you're gonna be able to pull out this one. And they were able to, and now they have full advantage. We don't know if John Morant's even gonna play Game 5. Let's hope he does, so it feels like there's a chance for the Grizzlies. But the Warriors, man, once they have this opportunity, they're going to run with it. And they were able to take 2 games at home. Now they're in the driver's seat for the series. But let's move on to the next series. And the next series we're going to be discussing is the Boston Celtics taking on the Milwaukee Bucks, where the series is tied at 2-2. And what's great about the rest of these NBA series, about these second-round series, is that the rest of the series, besides the Warriors, Grizzlies, are 2-2, and it feels like it can go either way. And that's honestly the biggest case for the Celtics-Bucks series, because Game 3, although the Celtics had a big Game 2 victory, they go home to the Bucks go home to Milwaukee, and Giannis had his best game of the series, scoring 42 points in this one, and he just absolutely took over this game. And what also helped them was that Jrue Holiday, although Giannis scored the most points in that game, Jrue Holiday was just firing away, and he was able just to take some shots for the team where Giannis didn't have to handle the ball 24/7. I mean, Jrue Holiday attempted 30 shots in this one, scored 25 points. He was absolutely massive. Tatum was struggling heavily in this one, scoring only, I think it was 10 points in this one. Yeah, 4 for 19 shooting. Him being a non-factor was a big reason why the Celtics lost this game. And I think going into Game 4, he knew that. The rest of the team knew that if he even had an average game, he would they were basically going to win that. But it didn't, and the Bucks were able to take advantage. And it was a bad shooting night for both. But really, when it comes down to it, when two teams are really struggling, especially from deep, whichever team is better in the paint is usually going to win it, because that's where you're going to get all the easy baskets. And that's what happened with the Bucks. They just had Giannis. This is a game where you look okay, both teams are shooting bad. Who's going to pull out the win? It's going to be the team with the best player in the league, one of the most dominant paint players in the modern era. And they were able to, pull out the win and take the series lead 2-1. But there's one thing I do want to talk about here, and that was the final play where, the Celtics were coming back in this game. They cut it down to 2, and it really did feel like the Celtics had a chance to like win it at the end because the Bucks had full control of this game, but they made like a mini comeback, and people were like, oh, you know what? The Celtics might be able to still pull this out even with the struggles that Jason Tatum was having. And Marcus Smart comes around the screen, he tries to pull for three, gets fouled, but then it was called as a on the floor foul, so it wasn't a 3-point shooting attempt, and he got 2 free throws instead of 3. Now a lot of people were saying, you know, that should have been a 3-point shot because like literally when he caught on the screen, he tried shooting and I think it was Pat Connaughton who swiped down and fouled him. Look, I think it was like if I had to make the decision, I think it was a 3, but at the same time, I think this was like more of a and again, this is like not like a good thing, but this is more of like a reputation type call because Marcus Smart usually is the type of player who would like do like one of those like leaning into the player type shots, like a rip through type thing, and you know the referees caught that, and I think that his reputation was kind of led to that call, which is again not I don't think should have happened, but that's what like Marcus Smart has built up over the last few years. But even with that, they still had a chance. Marcus Smart hit the first free throw. This guy seems to be the king at missed free throws because he missed it, got his own rebound, put the shot back up, hits the rim. Robert Williams had a chance, and then Al Horford had 2 chances at it. Hits a second one, but it was just too little too late. The Bucks were able to escape with a victory. But again, like I said, Jason Tatum played really bad this game, and the Celtics knew if they even had like a semi-decent game from him, they were able to win that game. So game 4, they came out the mentality, and Tatum bounced back in a huge way, scoring 30 points. A classic Tatum performance. He was absolutely fantastic. But the story of this game is Mr. Al Horford. Because Al Horford in this one, 30 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 11 for 14 shooting, 5 for 7 from deep. And there were times where I heard on the broadcast saying, oh, this Al Horford is turning back the clock. I even think, this is not really turning back the clock for Al Horford. This is just an unlikely phenomenal performance from him. Because when you think of Al Horford, I mean, you think of someone who averages 18, 9, 4 assists a game, a block and a steal. That is a vintage Al Horford game. He doesn't have that role this year, so he's not getting that consistently. But man, this guy was just absolutely dominant in this game. And just seeing him play in this like this well was just like pretty crazy. And as for the Bucks, I mean, Giannis did his thing, 34, 18, and 5. I think he had like a lot of those numbers come like all the way up until the end of the third quarter, and he wasn't as, effective in the fourth. But the Celtics, having those two guys scoring 30 points each, and having Marcus Smart with 18 points, Jaylen Brown with 18 points, 11 points off the bench with Derek White, and especially with no Robert Williams, they were able to slow down the Bucks offense in that fourth quarter while just completely going off themselves. Giannis played great. Drew Holiday was struggling a lot in this game, 5 for 22, 16 points. And he just did not have enough offensive help in this one, especially in the fourth quarter. And honestly, out of all the 4 games I've seen here, this was the one game where I felt like Chris Middleton would have made the biggest difference. Because in these times where they're trying to stop anything going to the paint from Giannis, you just need that one reliable off the dribble shooter, someone who can create for himself, potentially for others as well. And Middleton was that for them. And he was just sorely missed, especially in these moments when the Celtics were coming back because the Bucks did have the momentum. And that was just definitely missed from for the Bucks there. They needed just some outside creation, and they weren't able to get it there. But just looking at the series, 2-2 series, both teams got a home and an away win. So I mean, if you want to go by that saying, the series doesn't start until the home team loses. Well, both home teams lost, and from the last episode where I was talking about how I felt about the series being 1-1, it makes me feel the same way. I mean, I still believe the series is gonna go 7 games. I would still give the edge to the Bucks because of the Giannis factor, but again, I would not be surprised if the Celtics pulled this off. I think this has been a really good series so far. This has probably been the most even series I've seen so far out of all the 2-2 series as well. Let's see what happens in Game 5 back in Boston. I think the Celtics are hoping that Robert Williams will be able to play in that game, but we're gonna have to wait and see. Been a great series so far. Again, Al Horford scoring 30 points in the way that he did so efficiently. That was a crazy thing to see looking back. And again, another game where the Celtics won the 3-point battle and were able to win the game. So keep that in mind for the Celtics winning these games. Great win for them. Should be a really fun last 3 games here. Hopefully it goes to 7 though. Hopefully. Moving on to the next series, we're gonna be talking about the Suns versus the Mavs. And if you remember me talking about it in on Friday, the Suns were up 2-0. I said that the Mavs, like, if they needed to win this, he needed to at least get one game on at home. But man, they made it 2. They made it 2 and they bounced back in a massive way. Going back to game 3, we finally had a game where Luka and Jalen Brunson both had great games, scoring each over 25 points. And in that game, the Suns really just couldn't get into a rhythm. They had Jay Crowder leading the way for that one, scoring 19 points, but Devin Booker really couldn't get into a rhythm, 6 for 13 shooting. Chris Paul, 12 points, 4 assists. Like, the Mavs were just taking their chances, and I think they were just getting a lot more shot attempts than them. I mean, the Phoenix Suns had 76 shots in this game compared to the Mavericks 90, and that was mostly because of the amount of turnovers the Suns had. 17 turnovers in this game. That really took them out the rhythm, and the Mavs were able to take advantage, and it wasn't really because of 3-point shooting. It was because Luka finally got help. He finally got help on the offensive end. You know, Jalen Brunson with 28, and you also got Dorian Finney-Smith with 14, 15 from Reggie Bullock, 14 off the bench from Maxi Kleber. You get all that combined, and the Dallas Mavericks were able to pull out the win. And, you know, I mean, it was a good win, but a lot of people were assuming, you know, the Suns are going to bounce back on the offensive end. They're not going to play this bad 2 games in a row, especially with one of the best, you know, teams on both sides of the ball the entire year. Moving on to game 4, and the Dallas Mavericks. This game, I mean, the best way to put this game is that when you look back at round 1 against the Utah Jazz, what really turned the series for them, especially in game 2, was going 5 out and completely just taking advantage of Rudy Gobert. Well, what we learned in game 4 is that no matter what team they're facing, this 5 out can be dangerous, and they showed that completely in game 4. The Mavs were able to hit 23s in this game compared to the Suns' 9, and 12 of those threes came from 2 people. Davis Bertans with 4 threes coming off the bench. That was massive for them. But Dorian Finney-Smith had the game of his career so far. 24 points, 8 for 12 from 3. This guy was just an absolute flamethrower out there, and he was hitting every shot, which was massive for the Dallas Mavericks to able to tie this series up. Because Luka wasn't phenomenal on the offensive end, 9 for 25 shooting, 26 points, 11 assists. I mean, it was a good Luka game. But it was the other guys around him that did, that was able to step it up and be able to help lead the team to victory. Jalen Brunson with 18 points, Kleber with 11. You got 10 points off the bench from Spencer Dinwiddie. And again, Dorian Finney-Smith hitting those threes, getting those driving kicks from Luka is just absolutely key for them. And the way that they were able to destroy the Jazz in game 2, like late in that game, they were able to do it again. Because if you remember game 2, Maxi Kleber was the one who had 8 threes in that one. And they got it again in this series with Dorian Finney-Smith. As for the Suns side, I mean, Devin Booker was phenomenal. 35 points, 10 for 22 shooting, 7 assists. But Chris Paul's foul trouble throughout this game was the reason why the Suns couldn't get into any rhythm offensively besides Devin Booker. 5 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists for Chris Paul, only attempting 4 shots. But he fouled out with 9 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And I'm going to say this right now. Were there some BS calls there? 100%. But Chris Paul let the Mavs beat him at his own game with, the rip-through move, those type of, Chris Paul type fouls that he draws on a regular basis. The flopping that he does sometimes, it bit him in the butt, and he was on the bad end of it for this one. And although Devin Booker had a great game and they did have some chances late there, the Mavs were just able to just keep running with that 5 out, and that was just absolutely killing the Phoenix Suns. Again, no matter what, it just feels like I don't want to say that this is this this kind of like excuses the Jazz. I just think that it just shows that like when these guys for Dallas are hitting threes, it's kind of hard to stop no matter what team you are. You could be the best defensive team in the league, and the Suns were that for the majority for the season. Like he was there, I think top 3. It doesn't matter when you have Dorian Finney-Smith hitting 8 threes. I mean, there's what can you do about that? What can you really do? One of the things I think that the Suns really need to adjust in the 4th game is that if the Mavs are gonna be running this 5 out, you gotta feed it to DeAndre Ayton. If he can get into a rhythm offensively and get into to those 20 and 10 numbers like he did in the first round series, I think that could be a massive plus for them. And at this point, I mean, you saw the Mavericks absolutely destroy the Suns from 3 in the last one. I mean, Luka scored 45 points and the Suns won comfortably in game 1. Why not try it again? Why not try to let Luka beat you and kind of protect everything else? Maybe that's a suggestion, but at the end of the day, I think the Mavs put on a great game plan, and seeing them win with Luka not having to be the Superman of the team and getting contributions from everyone was really good to see. Was very, very good to see. One more thing I do want to talk about before we move on to the next series: the incident with Chris Paul's family and the fan. Completely unacceptable. Apparently, according to the next day report, it was apparently an unsolicited hug by the fan trying to go to the Paul family, including his mother and wife. And if you saw the videos online, Chris Paul was just trying to yell at the fans like, "I'm gonna see you later" and all that. And this guy looked like between the ages of like 14 to 18. He looked like a really young dude. And all I have to say about the situation is that, look, whether it was a hug, which again sounds fishy to me, or whatever it was, do not touch players' families without their consent. Do not do that, especially when you're in like a rowdy environment, like an NBA playoff game. You're the home team. They're sitting behind the bench. I mean, that was just a super weird situation to me, and I think just the idea of consent there, trying to like whatever was trying to happen. I still have no idea like what the true intent was or something like that. It really was like an odd situation for me, but it was just like really like again just unacceptable. Do not touch these people. And Chris Paul, maybe he didn't know the whole situation. Maybe he was able to talk to the fan, but he's gonna be banned until the 2023 season, which is actually like what 6-7 months. Sorry, like 6 months. It is what it is, but I don't know. Just what do you tell me? What you guys think? Do you think it should have been more? I thought it should have been more of a longer ban, but I think that anything that has to do with like touching like the players' families, especially when on the away team side, especially since they're going into like Dallas' environment, I think is a completely unacceptable. And hopefully that thing is sorted out. I just think that they have to set a precedent, especially for the Mavs. And if you think it's like a 6-month ban and try to like get that, try and do that to take, get the Suns off their game, especially with Chris Paul, people are gonna be thinking like, oh, that could like really like maybe that's enough to kind of throw them off. Who knows? And maybe a 6-month ban is worth it. They really should have put down the hammer like stronger. I wouldn't say maybe a permanent ban, honestly, just because like because of just like the physical touching of the family. But at the end of or maybe even like a couple years. But I just think that they kind of let the guy off easy. It really did feel like that. And it's just like an unacceptable situation. We should not be touching it. I mean, it's fun, I've been to playoff games, high-fiving people, giving, big bro hugs to people around me. It is what it is, but it's a big consent thing. And if they said, don't touch them, please, like, respect their wishes and don't do it, basically. Should have really been better there from the fan. And again, he's a young kid. It looked like he was there with his family. The family should have done better and like how prevent that from happening. So, yeah, bad situation there. Hopefully things get resolved. Hopefully we get to have more of the story just so we know like the full context of everything. Final series I want to talk about is the 76ers taking on the Miami Heat. And after 4 games, after 4 games, the series is tied. And it's just really crazy because after looking at the first like 2 games, it really felt like this was like the most underwhelming playoff series of the entire playoffs, honestly. I mean, it really didn't feel like a playoff game. And although the 76ers, had their moments in both games 1 and 2, it really never felt like they had a chance. But the biggest change here was Embiid was cleared from concussion protocols and was able to wear the mask and get to play in Game 3 and 4. And man, did that make a massive, massive difference. Because I had to admit, in these 2 games, Joel Embiid was not the best player in either of them. But his presence out there on the court just opens the game for everyone else when it comes to Tyrese Maxey, Harden, Tobias Harris. All of them, they just have a lot more space to operate. And they were able to take advantage in these 2 games to tie it up. Game 3, the offense was honestly looking really bad for the first, 3 quarters. But in the fourth quarter, the 76ers finally pulled away. Tyrese Maxey had finished with 21 points, all of them coming in the second half. And it was him. Danny Green also scored 21, hitting 7 threes in that one. And just like more all-around, game from the 76ers with Embiid scoring 17. Same thing with Harden. Harris providing 10-plus points. That plus the Miami Heat struggling besides Jimmy Butler was massive in the 76ers getting that Game 3 win. Honestly, in that game, Jimmy Butler scored 33 points. He was absolutely fantastic. But there was no one else who showed up. No one. I mean, Hero had 14 points, bad shooting percentages. There was no second guy there for the Miami Heat, and it showed. They finished with 77 points in that one. Almost half of them coming from Jimmy. Almost half of it. So, yeah, that was just a horrible, horrible offensive night for the Miami Heat. And Larry returned to this game, hamstring injury. Honestly, looked like he hurt the team more than he helped them. 0 points in this one, 20-plus minutes. He just looked hurt still. And I know, and Raptor fans know better than most other fans. Lowry will play through most injuries, most of these situations, especially when he wants to help the team to win in these pressure scenarios. But in this one, you could tell his hamstring was still bothering him. There were times when he was going back to bench and he was still holding on that hamstring. He shouldn't have played. And I think this could be the same for Game 4 as we transition into it. I mean, he scored 6 points. It was a little bit bad for him, but it still looked like it was bothering him. And again, he was doing more harm than good for that Miami Heat team. Because in Game 4, it felt more of the same story. I mean, speaking of the Heat, Jimmy Butler played even better, 40 points. And then Bam played better than the last game, scoring 21. But no really other offensive firepower besides those 2 in that game. And in Game 4, Embiid played better as well, 24 points, had a double-double in this one. But the biggest story here was James Harden just completely taking over that game, scoring 31 points, 16 of them coming in the fourth quarter, hitting his signature step-back threes, getting to the free throw line, hitting those shots. And that was the biggest reason why they won Game 4. And once again, Embiid didn't have to be the best player, but his presence opened it up for everyone. And Harden had arguably his best game as a Philadelphia 76er. And seeing him in that fourth quarter, I know Philly fans just breathed a sigh of relief because we were wondering when that James Harden was going to show up, and we saw kind of the full package of James Harden in that fourth quarter. His ability to hit threes, his ability to just take over for stretches of the game, and that's the James Harden that Philly fans have been waiting for, and it finally showed up. The 76ers probably think after those first 2 games, after these last 2 games, look, when we have Embiid on the court, this Miami Heat team is afraid to go into the paint. They're kind of changing up the game plan, and they're able to. And if Philly's able to hit their shots, they should be able to win these games. As for the Miami Heat, one more thing before we move on to the NBA season grades. Look, my biggest problem with them, they have not a lot of holes in their team, but if there's one glaring weakness is that besides Jimmy, their shot creation is a bit sketchy. Kyle Lowry, it's not like he's a younger version of him from 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, he's an okay shot creator, but he's not really that guy. Tyler Hero has been kind of on and off in this series, they really do need his 3-point shooting ability, his ability to create his own shot in order to win these games, because he has struggled these last 2 games in Philly, and that's led to 2 losses there for the Miami Heat, where it looked like they had all the momentum in the world, But that Joel Embiid going into the starting lineup, getting back from injury, has completely changed the way they've been playing, and their offense just looks even more rough. I think that they can still bounce back. They are going back to Miami in Game 5, which is a pivotal Game 5 because this can really sway the series one way or another, especially for a Philadelphia 76er team who was down 0-2. If they can win 3 straight here, that kind of feels like that could really be enough to propel them to a win. But honestly, if going back to Miami, maybe they can switch things up because honestly, their 3-point shooting in these last 2 games have been horrible, hitting 7 for 35 in game 4, it's 7 for 30 in game 3. They just need to just get some other guys going. Maybe it's time for them to dust off a Duncan Robinson just so you can get in some shots because he is honestly their best 2-point shooter on that team. They have other avenues they can go to. They have a deep team for a reason. They can really switch things up here. But this Game 5, whoever wins this is absolutely pivotal. And let's see if the Philadelphia 76ers can continue this momentum that they and this play that they've done at home over to Miami. They're going to need some great help from Maxey, a great help from James Harden, and of course Joel Embiid. And now that Joel Embiid realized that he didn't win the NBA MVP, I'm sorry, Heat fans, you might have to watch Joel Embiid absolutely go off in the next game. Who knows, but I think the series has been really good. The Heat just need to find some guys to hit some shots besides Jimmy Butler. The 76ers just got to stick to the game plan, and hopefully James Harden that could be kind of a wake-up call for James Harden, and you could see kind of his best version of himself going forward. And hopefully Embiid can also put up some big numbers as well, because this series can go either way. Again, I thought this series was dead in the water, but Embiid came back, completely changed it. Kind of as expected, but also it was just surprising to see them just come back from 2-0, really. But yeah, good wins for the Philadelphia 76ers. Excited to see how this series will play out going to Game 5, which I believe tonight as you guys are listening to this. So should be really, really good. But yeah, those are my NBA playoff reviews so far. Let me know down below what you guys think of each of these series. If there's anything else that I missed talking about, make sure to put it down in the comment section or the Instagram video down below. But before we start off, I did say I was going to talk more about these NBA season grades, and we're going to definitely talk about in this one. I went through the teams that got eliminated in the first round, talked about the teams that made the play-in but didn't make the playoffs, and now we're going to be talking about the bottom 5 teams of each conference, starting with the East and just giving them a grade on their season. I'm going a bit long. Hopefully I can keep this to about 50-something minutes, but let's see how it goes. The first team I want to talk about is the 11th-seeded New York Knicks. Last year, they were the 4th seed in the East. The biggest surprise in the NBA, one of the better stories. Julius Randle, All-NBA second team. Coach Thibodeau, Coach of the Year. This year, people thought that they would maybe fall back down to earth, but they still expected them to be a playoff team. That was just not the case. That was not the case. Julius Randle regressed in his game, averaging 20 and 12 this year, but on pretty bad percentages, and he just looked poor overall. And there was just so much bad things that went the Knicks way. I mean, it started off great when against the Boston Celtics. We got that awesome Knicks video from Side Talk NYC. But after that, it just went downhill and even more downhill. I mean, there were some issues with Tibbs not being able to play his young guys. Again, Barrett's regression, the D Rose injury, not really growth in the young guys except for RJ Barrett, who actually had a really good season. I just thought that this team, at least be in the play-in, give yourself a chance, and it really looked like it was just a disastrous season as a whole for the Knicks. They signed Thibodeau to a 5-year contract. I don't think they're going to get rid of him just because, after one bad season, you just really shouldn't be doing that to your coach. But they got to make some moves. Maybe Donovan Mitchell's on the market. I don't know what they're willing to give up for him. But this Knicks team, they felt complacent. They thought that they were one step away when they were really just, a few steps away. I think that they thought of their guys you know what, Julius Randle continuing to play well. We can expect growth from RJ Barrett. Get some nice periphery pieces and people like Evan Fournier and stuff like that. And maybe that would be enough, re-signing Nerlens Noel, Alec Burks. Keep these guys around. We should be back in the same position. No, not really. Most of these, a lot of these teams on paper look better than this Knicks team. And they thought, keeping them together would helped him grow. It didn't. It really didn't. I have to give this Knicks grade a D. The only thing that's really saving them and not giving them an F was just RJ Barrett's growth this year. They gotta play some of the young guys and start developing that young core and hopefully getting rid of some of those old guys. Taj Gibson played way too many games where he played over 30 minutes in this season. Maybe that's like a coaching thing. Maybe that's just like an organization thing. But things have to change in that. Things have to change. I don't think it's gonna be possible to trade Julius Randle because of how low his trade value is right now. But they gotta kind of change the way that they're doing this, and they really have to start building into that young core and stop being stuck with like people like a D Rose, Alec Burks. They gotta get rid of them and actually like, I don't want to say commit to a rebuild, but make sure that they have like a young core of guys instead of like mixing in, try to get in these veterans and stuff like that, because clearly it just did not work. Moving on to the next team, we're gonna be talking about the Washington Wizards. And plain and simple, this year, when you have Bradley Beal on your team, they feel like they should be competing every year. And once again, they didn't. They finished as a 12th seed in the East. I think that there were some good things to see. I mean, Kyle Kuzma finished the season averaging 17 a game. Denny Avdija has turned to a really good defender for them, and I think that he could be a good piece for them going forward. They were able to trade that Spencer Dinwiddie contract, which really didn't work out. He did not gel well with that team whatsoever, and flipped into Kristaps Porzingis. So hopefully he can get healthy next year. I don't think that was that bad of a trade for them. But at the end of the day, just the Wizards, their goal is making the playoffs. And another year where you're wasting Bradley Beal's prime, I think that he should be out of there. I'm really hoping that they're able to facilitate some sort of sign and trade or something to have him out of there. But at the end of the day, it's his choice. I mean, he has a chance to sign this super max contract. If he wanted to leave, he probably would have done a long time ago. But he's still there, get his bag, I guess. But yeah, the Wizards, a team with like those type of aspirations, really not close to it. Maybe next year is the chance. Who knows? But their plans to get healthy. I don't know what other changes they're gonna make, but I think that they really should have been like a lot better than they did, especially because they started the season so well. It just kind of really went down from there. So yeah, the Wizards, I have to give them a D grade. Moving on to the 13th seed in the East, we're gonna be talking about the Indiana Pacers, and I'm gonna start off with a grade here. I'm gonna start off with a B minus. And I think that was like this grade has been carried by the fact that they were able to flip Sabonis into Tyrese Halliburton and Buddy Hield, and the way they were able to get that, have a nice young player going into the future, very good, one of the best young players in the league. It's really good. Plus the fact that you still have someone like Chris Duarte, who they drafted, and he actually turned out to be a really good guy for them coming off the bench. Those two really did carry this grade. But besides that, Miles Turner got injured for the majority of the year. Malcolm Brogdon was just in and out of the lineup. They still didn't get to see TJ Warren this year. It wasn't like a great season for them, especially because they were a team that wanted to make the playoffs. They weren't close to that. But them losing out, and I think having top 6 or top 5 odds at the number 1 pick is really good for the Pacers. They were able to get Tyrese Halliburton in the deal. I think they still need to make changes in the offseason, but I do like the outlook of this team. Again, B minus is my grade for them. I could even be convinced to be put up to a B, because I think them kind of tanking away the second half of the season and being able to get Tyrese Halliburton was really good. And I think that's the good direction they want for this team. Are they going to trade people like Brogdon, Turner, Warren? Who knows? But I do like the outlook of this team for sure. Moving on to the 14th seed in the East, I got to talk about the Detroit Pistons. They finished the season 23 and 59. 23 and 59. And I've had to give them a grade for the season, to be honest. A. I'm giving them an A for the season. Because honestly, they just did what they had to do. They showed signs of potential while still being able to tank for a pick. And I just like a lot of the young guys they have on that team. Cade Cunningham looks like he could be their lead guard for the next decade. Sadiq Bey showed flashes once again this year. Isaiah Stewart was solid. You got players like Bagley in a trade, which was actually a really good trade for them. And I just think that this, plus a potential top 3 pick to add to this, whether it's Chet Holmgren, whether it's Jabari Smith, or another guard, who knows. But this shows like a lot of promise for this team. I really like the way this direction is going. And honestly, just a lot of games this year where I watch and you see Dwayne Casey have the system, and he just has them competing. Like they had some good wins against some of the top teams in the East. I mean, they swept the Raptors again this season, and they were a top five seed. So, there's some problems with this young Pistons team. I still don't know what direction they want to go in the draft, but they have a nice young core there. I think give them another 2-3 years. I think this team could be competing for a top 6 seed in the playoffs in the East. I really do think so, but we're gonna have to see some more growth next year. Hopefully, we get to see that. Honestly, Cade just being able to come back from that early season injury and being able to play as well as he did, especially in the second half of the season, really, really good. Can't wait to see the future of this team. This is a team that definitely has my eye going forward, and I just think they're gonna be a fun team to watch and just kind of follow these next few years. Final team I'm going to talk about here, we're going to be talking about the 15th seed in the East, the Orlando Magic, who finished the season off 22-60. I think, again, like the Pistons, they did a good tank job. My only thing is, I'm going to give them a B+ here. I'm going to give them a B+, and the reason why I'm not giving them as high of a Pistons is because both do have plans to tank. I just think that I just don't see as much promise in this young core as I do in the Pistons young core. With the Pistons, I feel like Cade Cunningham could be a number 1 or 2 guy on a really good team, potentially a contender, with nice surrounding guys with Stewart, Bagley. Bagley needs to play more games with this team, but again, I still like the trade, and Sadiq Bey. As for the Magic, my biggest takeaway from the season was the second rookie they drafted in the first round last year that really changed things for the Magic here, and it was Franz Wagner instead of Jalen Suggs. And again, they missed Jalen Suggs for almost half the season due to injury. Markelle Fultz only played the last I think less than 20 games, and Cole Anthony was in and out the lineup. Those type of things are what make this great for the Magic lower than the Pistons. Do they still have They have one of the best odds for the number 1 pick for sure. Along with them, I think they have the second next to the Houston Rockets, but I just wish there was some more growth within the team. I wish I saw a bit more from Suggs, a bit more from Anthony. I mean, Cole Anthony finished the season with 17 points a game. It was solid, but I just wish there was a bit more from them. I still think that there's a lot of holes in this team. You can literally, if they get the number 2 or 1 or 2 overall pick, getting another forward for this team, potentially a new center, would be interesting, but they really just got to figure out who they want to keep for the next 5 to 10 years. And I think next season is going to be a good indicator with the trades they make or just their performances to see which direction this team wants to go in. I'm hoping for a nice bounce back season for Suggs. Hopefully we get a near full season from Fultz, some time with Cole Anthony as well. There's some good young guys. Maybe bring back Jonathan Isaac next year. Nice center, core with Mo Bamba and Wendell Carter. There's some talent, but they just got to show it more on the court for me. Show how they could do this more with as a team. Because really, if I look at the roster, I see a lot of these guys being potentially expendable in the next 3 to 4 years. And so far, Franz Wagner for me is the only kind of untouchable. But at the end of the day, maybe he can be traded as well. Who knows? But I have to give him a B+. I think that if they can get another top pick here, would be good. But it's all about trying to set that culture, and they got to start winning soon. Not winning soon, but start having trying to form that identity. They got Jamal Mosley as a coach there. Let him build his team. Let him build his system, and kind of stick to it. We don't need a rotating carousel of coaches, of young guys year in year out. You just got to add to it. Maybe make some tweaks here and there, but you have to have some structure in your organization. I think that they have some guys there. They just have to figure out who they want to keep around. But that is all the grades for the Eastern Conference teams that didn't make the playoffs. Let me know down below what you guys think. Do you agree with the grade? Do you not agree? And also the same thing with the playoffs. Agree with my thoughts on that, as well as the awards as well. Let me know down in the comment section below. I'll definitely try to respond to every one of you. But yeah, I think this is a good time to end the podcast today. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Remember to show love on all the podcast channels. Like, share, subscribe if you're on YouTube. And remember to follow TV on Basketball on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok for updates on the podcast and for other content. I'm going to be back here Friday, hopefully, to talk more some NBA basketball. Maybe we might have a guest on the show. But yeah, I just think that there's like a lot of fun NBA basketball. Hopefully, I get to do some lives this week as well before some of the games. And yeah, there's just like some great content coming up for you guys. And hopefully, we can have some longer series so we don't have to talk about, like series ending by the time we get to the Friday show. Who knows? But yeah, some great playoff basketball. I can't wait to watch more. Hope you guys are enjoying the playoffs and also the content I am putting out for the playoffs. I want to thank you guys for all the support and hope you all have a fantastic day. Take it easy, guys. This is TV signing out. Peace.